Hey guys, it's Delora Dabbles here, and I have a book review for you guys. But first off, I wanted to apologize for how messy my little sphere is today. It's actually been that way since I moved. My whole apartment is a mess. I was gonna wait until I cleaned everything, but I was like, if I wait till I clean everything, I'm never gonna get this video out. So let me go ahead and do this video anyway, and just apologize up front for moving twice in just a few months. Everything is chaos. The book that we were reviewing, though, is a really, really nice, well-ordered book. Not like my life. It is The Horned Altar by Tess Dawson. Now, I don't actually like to do reviews on books that are rare or out of print. This book is out of print. It has recently fallen out of print. It was originally published in 2013 by Llewellyn. And if this book interests you, I'll remind you again at the end to maybe shoot Llewellyn an email asking them to reprint it. It deserves a reprint. There are lots of people who are still looking for this book, and I've seen copies of this book sell online for anywhere between $50 to $80, which is bulk honky because it sells for $23 is what it retails for. Don't pay more than $30 for it. You might find a few online retailers who still have it. If you're super savvy, you might be able to find something, but as of right now, it is kind of out of print. I say kind of because I really do feel like it's going to be reprinted because it's just such a great book, and I feel like it has just slipped through the cracks, and especially among the magical community. So what makes this book so special? It's about Canaanite magic. If you read the Bible or were forced to as a child like me, then you already know who the Canaanites are. But you don't really know the whole story because in the literature, they talk about how the Canaanites sacrificed children. There's no archaeological evidence to support that. And the people who wrote that were the Greeks and Romans who had beef with the Canaanites. So you can't really take that, you have to take that with a grain of salt. You can't take that as 100% fact at all. So there's a lot of misconceptions about the Canaanites already. You can already see that I'm trying to be like, well, it's not what you think it is, right? They come from the ancient Mesopotamia area, the Fertile Crescent, right? They were much closer to the Mediterranean Sea than the Fertile Crescent, but a lot of their literature is written in the same languages. So Tess Dawson practices something called Natib Kaddish, which is modern Canaanite religion. They have revived it. There's a really nice introduction about Natib Kaddish that I suggest you read. That I suggest you read, not weed, read. All in all, it's a fantastic book. So there are two parts to this book. There's a book 1 and a book 2. Book 1 is Rediscover, and then book 2 is Rekindle. The entirety of book 1, and this is just the table of contents, so you can view kind of what is spoken about. Book 1 is all about what we know, what the facts are, the archaeological evidence, the written history record, all of that. Book 2 is about rekindling it and reviving it through the modern lens and for modern practitioners. And you will notice if you read through those chapters that a lot of them repeat. Chapter 1 of book 1 is Foundation, and chapter 9 is Care and Feeding of the Deities. Book 2 is Magic, Theory, and Ethics. Chapter 2 of book 1 is Magic, Theory, and Ethics, and chapter 10 of book 2, so the second chapter of book 2, is Virtues, Ethics, and Creating Magic. They kind of mirror each other. And I like how she did that. Instead of blending the facts with her opinion, she makes book 1, she makes book 2. All of the facts are in book 1, and all of the personal magic system is in book 2. So if you're into anthropology and all of that, then book 1, and it is about half of the book too. That's really cool. I think book 1 is a little bit thicker by just maybe one extra leaflet. But if you're into the anthropology of it, book 1 is amazing. Book 1 is absolutely amazing. I found a lot of it to be extremely accurate just from what I had read about that area of the world in that time period. And there were lots of different cultures with the same language and similar deities with similar functions, right? So she really talks about all of that and breaks all of that down for you as well. And if on the rare occasion that she does state an opinion in book 1, she lets you know that it's an opinion, and she makes it very clear that that is an opinion of hers. So I can also very much appreciate that she definitely delineates between fact, archaeological fact, and modern practice. Because I feel like those lines get blurred sometimes, and a lot of practitioners try to attribute modern practices to ancient cultures, and they don't always know where one ends and the other begins. And Tess Dawson is like, no, this is where the archaeological record ends and the modern practice begins, and there's no confusion about it, and I love that. She talks about all of the different alphabets, which I really like, because that can get a little bit confusing whether one's written in this or that or the other, you know. So she has a whole chapter on alphabets. I believe it is chapter 6. So she has the Proto-Canaanite alphabet, she has the Ugaritic alphabet, the Phoenician alphabet, and then also the Hebrew alphabet. So some of these letters might not have a letter. Let me just show you the table here. As you can see, this only has an Ugaritic letter. There is no correspondence among the other alphabets for that letter. That letter only exists in Ugaritic. And she will also tell you whether the letter, they know that the letter means that, or whether archaeologists think that the letter means that. And that's a really big deal, because you might find that that letter might not mean that thing, or she might give you options on what the letter means, and they're not sure which one of these it means, but it's one of them. Stuff like that. Because language is very complicated, especially whenever you're working with languages that have been dead for as long as some of these have. So, for instance, this particular letter that I showed you guys is the English equivalent of oo. Not you, oo. Like whenever you start a word with the letter oo, and you have that stop in your throat. So whenever I say you, it doesn't really do the same thing as oo. There's like a throat stop. I think she actually calls it a throat stop. There's a specific linguistic word for it. This letter represents a glottal stop. A glottal stop plus the vowel U, and can represent other vowels, especially very complicated vowels, like the U in cushion, or the U in bull, or the O in go. Lots of different things. And there's actually, they don't know what it means, so there's no translation note or modern divinatory meaning note, because they don't know what that letter means. And I like that. I like that she doesn't just try to pull something out of her ass to complete a table. She's very straight up. And you'll see that a lot of, as you read through different books, you'll find that a lot of magical writers, they'll just throw something out there so that every letter has a divinatory meaning. But she is not afraid to say, I don't know. Work it out. I don't know. And I like that. Because as someone who also does not know everything, I will clearly say that I don't know everything, and I can appreciate that quality in other people. Moving on into other things that I found particularly amazing was the body in chapter 5, talking about the spiritual significance of each body part. In particular, they were very, the throat has a very particular meaning, so I want to talk about that. An open throat and a good appetite symbolize vitality, strength, and personal power. The throat is where the soul and the body connect. A healthy throat, clear breathing, and a good appetite are indicators of the Napshu's well-being. The Napshu is like the soul, right? And she has it for every body part, basically. The head, the eyes, the mouth, the throat, the hands, the heart, the liver. spine, feet, the joints and tendons, certain areas where things connect in the body, all of those joints have a significance. Cleansing and covering the body is also included there. How they viewed bodily processes, the process of eating, more on cleansing processes. So that whole chapter has so much meat in it. I could talk about it for another 15 minutes, but we're not going to. She also has in here, in the chapter 7, prayer, blessing, and curse, she talks about how holding or touching the throat is a specific prayer posture. Since the throat is the center of the Nabshu, and a blessing is the encouragement and empowerment of Nabshu, holding the throat is symbolic of this transmission of vitality. Also, having your palms up or your palms forward is a sign of power, or of requesting power from the gods. Like, even the Egyptians felt that, because you'll see them with their palms up and the sun disk is above the statue, or there's a sun disk above the carving, and they'll have their arms up like this. It's a little awkward because I'm holding a book, but you guys get me. Reaching your palm up to heaven is you asking something of the gods, right? And so I like how she talks about the postures. There's just so many daily life details that we have from this area of the world, that we know how they worshipped. We also know their laws around magic. I forget which chapter it's in, so I'm just going to talk about it. But they had laws about magic. Performing baneful magic on someone, you could be punished as if you had physically harmed them. So if you send a magic plague or curse on a guy's, flock of animals, on a, rival neighbor's flock of animals, and they all die, you will be charged as if you had murdered them yourself and slit every animal's throat yourself. It's the same severity. There's also certain magical rituals and practices that could only be done by priests, and if you were caught doing those and you were not a priest, you could get in trouble, because those kinds of rituals were only certified to be done by certain levels of priests. So not even all priests, certain levels of priests. There was a whole hierarchy of who can do what magically. And of course, you don't have to do that exact ritual. You can do a ritual that is similar. And there were certainly traveling magicians and magicians that were not priests, witches and practitioners, basically. I say magicians because I guess it just sounds cooler. But practitioners, there were certainly practitioners who were not priests that performed things. Now, if things got a little bit out of hand for that person, usually that practitioner would then contact a priest. It was kind of like keeping the priest from being too busy with just little things, like, there's a ghost that keeps knocking around in my house, probably a traveling practitioner or a local practitioner could handle that. Now, if it was someone had sent a very potent, baneful magic on someone, cursed someone very badly, then the priest would probably have to intervene at that point, right? So yeah, lots of laws about magic, and that's really cool, especially if you're a fantasy writer like I am. There are lots of fantasy books that talk about, incorporating magical practice into the law. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. For as many books that it worked and that book was very popular, there were probably like 3 or 4 more that were never published because their system of law surrounding magic just does not work. So if you want to know a system of law of magic that does work, you might want to look into the Canaanite stuff and the ancient Mesopotamian stuff. I forget that guy's name. Jesus Christ. I wish I had like more sticky notes to write down specific names, but you'll find his laws often written on diorite, because he was a king that suggested that everything be carved into diorite for posterity, because diorite is the hardest stone. It can only be cut with diamond or diamond tipped tools. And so literally these laws would last forever if they were written on a stone that lasted forever. Anyway, it's all fantastic. I hope that I have encouraged you to shoot Llewellyn an email about reprinting this, because I think it's amazing. I don't think people should pay $50 to $100 for a book that's only $24, $23 actually, $23. And this book really does deserve another reprint. I'm a huge fan of this book by Tess Dawson. Haven't read any of her other books, but maybe I will get around to it. And I really, really hope that you enjoyed this book review, because I really liked this book. Anyway, until next time. Oh, there's tons of stuff in here I also didn't talk about, which is why I showed the table of contents. I'm just flipping through it and I'm like, oh, but maybe I should talk about this and maybe I should talk about that, but it's already 16 minutes, so I gotta let you guys go. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. And until next time. Oh, if you like this video, please hit like so I know that book reviews are something that you like. Subscribe to my channel, and until next time, happy dabbling and bye-bye.